that. So that's really a nice feature of the tablet PCs. Why would I not recommend these for everybody? Well, they're going to be slower speeds than most laptops that are out there. They have smaller screens. The handwriting recognition is inconsistent. They tend to be thicker. Some of them, especially those ones with the fold-over design, really can generate a lot of heat. There's a lot of good tablets out there. This is just one that we've recommended. We have no strong preference right now. Kind of unusual when we're talking in a paperless practice to talk about printers, but as I said, it's really tough to get completely paperless. Every office is going to have some paper, whether it's insurance statements or walkout forms or whatever the case is. So important to just take a brief look at printers. People ask me, well, what laser printer do I recommend? Here's what I suggest. Don't hold me to this model number. I checked this yesterday. It could have changed by then. Go on to HP's website. Find the laser printer that's $4.99, and that's the one you want. Basically, at that price point, it's going to have dual paper trays, so it can handle plain paper and stationery. You'll have an envelope option. You're going to need a workhorse laser printer to handle throughout the office. If you want to get like a real cheap laser that the office manager or the dentist can use, you can get something like Dell's 1110 model. This is, I think, $92 or something like that. And I mean, these are not expensive lasers. When it comes to color, I happen to be a fan of inkjets over color lasers. I just like the color saturation more. Canon has a line that I really like. This is just one of the ones that we recommend, the IP4700. This is one that I also like, the HP 6000. What's nice about this is that it's wireless. So that, for example, if you wanted to put this in a console room where there's no computer, you certainly could still print out any documents from that location. Color lasers have gone down incredibly in price. I think this one is under $200. This is Dell's color laser. These are not going to be speed demons at that price point, but still a really nice option for a lot of offices. Another question that I get from a lot of offices is, what about multifunctions, a combination printer, fax, copier, scanner? I'm not a huge fan simply from the standpoint that if it goes down, you've lost your printer, copier, fax, and scanner all in one shot. So if you're really tight for space, then I guess you probably don't have much of a choice. Get something like this. Certainly stay away from the ones that are designed for home and home office and get the business class ones. You're going to spend about $500 for one like this as well. How about sending images? Because we are communicating with our colleagues, how are we going to do that? Well, in my mind, and obviously in the context of what we're talking about, electronic is going to be preferred to paper. You can use email. There's really some HIPAA gray areas when it comes to sending images through email. I'm not sure if it really qualifies for complete HIPAA compliance. It's kind of, like I said, a gray area. There's a number of online sharing sites that you can use, ones that are designed for dental. We talked about Bright Squid and other ones that are coming out that are a good option. If you're going to send something electronically, please use something in a standardized format, JPEGs, TIFF, bitmap, something that people could open with any software that they have. If you are going to print them out, don't use the cheap copy paper. Get some good quality photo paper. It's going to cost you 40 or 50 cents, but probably worth it in the long run because these are going to our colleagues, going to patients. You really want to handle that properly. And if you're going to print out an FMX, do it so that it's large enough so that you can actually see the images. We've had so many times where people show up to an office and they've got it printed out on crappy paper and it's really, literally the size of someone's pinky fingernail. You really can't diagnose with something like that. Let's switch gears a little bit. I'm going to probably end up with this. We're running a little short on time, and I definitely wanted to get to all your questions. We already have about 17 questions, so I'm sure there's going to be more as well. So let's talk a little bit about digital X-rays, because I think this is such a hot topic still. Why should we consider digital X-rays? You've got the time savings. Be aware of the fact that the hard sensors are, in most cases, going to be faster than the phosphor plate systems. So if you do a lot of time-sensitive procedures like endo or implants, you're probably going to want to lean more towards the hard sensors. To me, the number one reason to consider digital X-rays is this whole concept of co-diagnosis. When the patients can see what we see, they're going to understand the treatment a lot more. They're going to be a lot more accepting of our treatment plans. You eliminate all the hassles and the cost of film. You're going to see reduced radiation. And one thing to keep in mind is that there's still sales reps out there who are touting this 80–90% reduction in exposure times when you go digital. The problem is that that was true maybe 20 years ago, but film has gotten a lot faster. The sensors, the newer CMOS sensors actually require a little bit more radiation. So we're seeing on average about a 30 to 50% reduction. The number one problem that I see with digital X-rays, and I'll get about 4 or 5 per week that are sent to me from various offices that want me to diagnose the problem, and 99.999% of the time I already know the problem. I don't have to look at it. It's underexposed. It's because of what the sales reps told them with the reduction. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. But there's better diagnostics in my mind. You can market your practice as being very on the cutting edge, and you get to see increased case attempts, as I said. Why are people staying away from digital x-rays? And right now, it depends on who you talk to. We're seeing a market penetration of around 35 to 45%. It just kind of depends on who you ask. But people are obviously worried about the cost and not having the proper infrastructure of computers in the operatories, worried about the image quality being equivalent to the film, and other valid concerns as well. Other things to be careful of, and I'm using Dentrix here as an example, and I'm not trying to pick on Dentrix because they don't even make these sensors anymore, so I guess I can get away with that. But you're going to see a lot of these companies come out with these ROI studies, and they're going to say to you, well, doctor, if you go digital, look at all the money you're going to save each month, and they sort of have these little flow sheets. Honestly, don't believe it. It's usually a bunch of crap, and I apologize if that's too blunt for some people, but it really is, because they never seem to factor in some of the other things like, oh, you're going to have to replace the computers, and oh, yeah, we're going to need an extended warranty on the sensors, and of course, they do break after a while and they have to be replaced. And in my mind, there's a lot of really good reasons to go digital, but cost savings probably are not one of those. I think you're going to see increased efficiency, increased revenues by the co-diagnosis. But if you're talking straight dollars, we've got offices that have been digital for 5, 6 years now, and I don't think any one of them can say that they're really completely in the black at this point. So for most offices, we're really talking about digital x-rays. It's direct sensors versus phosphor plate systems. There's different types of sensors out there. The newer ones that are coming are CMOS. We're really happy with the image quality we're seeing on them. The reason that most companies have gone to CMOS is they're cheaper to produce. There's really no diagnostic superiority in my mind of one versus the other. You are going to hear companies talking about this line pairs per millimeter. In my mind, that's just the biggest bunch of marketing hype out there. They're going to talk, well, our sensor can do 23 line pairs per millimeter. Ours can do 25 theoretical line pairs per millimeter. One slight problem. The human eye can see about 8. So most of the time, that's wasted. There's only a couple times where it comes into play if you're either zooming in a lot or printing poster-sized images. Otherwise, it really is just a meaningless statistic. How quickly do you need to see that image? Again, hard sensors are going to be faster than phosphor plate systems. There's going to be cost issues as well. What about scanners? Because that's one part of digital x-rays. You've got film. What are you going to do with all those scanners? Phosphor plates and sensors are the other major systems out there. For the scanners, there's not, unfortunately, a lot of good choices out there. You need a scanner where the light source is built into the lid. Kind of like when you have x-rays and you're trying to look at an x-ray, you hold it up to the light. The light has to come from behind it. Same thing with a scanner. The choice has become very limited over the last few years. Scanners that I am recommending right now, if you can find on eBay an Epson 1680 Professional, if you've got one in your closet that's gathering dust, that thing is worth its weight in gold. Best scanner ever. And, of course, Epson and all their wisdom decided to discontinue it. So that's, if you can find it, get it. The Epson V700 or V750 are ones that we probably are the only ones that we are recommending right now. The problem with those is it's got a 10-inch maximum scanning surface for film. So fine for most pans, fine for bite wings, but some FMX mounts are longer than that, so you're going to have a tough decision. Do you cut off the ends? Do you do 2 scans on 1/2 each? There's no really easy answer there. If you've got an unlimited budget, Epson has one called the 10,000 XL, which is pretty close to what it costs. It's a $3,000 scanner that can scan definitely larger than any FMX mount out there, so that's certainly an option. What about phosphor plates? Why would someone consider them? Well, they're not really sensors. They're phosphor plates. They're certainly less expensive, the plates themselves, than the hard sensors. You're going to find better patient tolerance because of how thin and flexible they are. They're cheaper to use in multiple operatories. You can use whatever positioning system you're already using, like rim kits or snap arrays, whatever you want to use, you can use those with phosphor plates. Are there reasons why they may not be the best choice? You're going to find that at the lower settings, because the phosphor plate system, for lack of a better term, is a scanner. And like any scanner, you can scan at low or high resolutions. If you do it at the lower resolution to save time, you're going to find that the image quality is not as great. They certainly do take longer to develop. But the process is very similar to film. You've got to basically take it over in a dark box to a machine. You run it through the machine. You mount it in the software. So very similar to film. And some of the units are quite large. ones that I'm sure most of you have heard of, and if you haven't, you're hearing about them now. Denoptrix was one of the first ones out there. The ScanX is a very popular system as well. They've got one called the Duo, so that two people can be feeding in plates at the same time for different patients. That's kind of a nice feature. This is one called the OpTime, which is also a